Good day, learners. Welcome to Module 3 of first quarter, Use of Modal Verbs, Nouns, and Adverbs. This is your teacher and this is our asynchronous lesson for the day. This presentation will serve as a guide for grade 8 students in understanding first quarter Module 3. Class reminder, you are not allowed to reproduce this module because it is against the law. And to give credit, this is the development team of this module. Module number 3 is divided into 3 lessons, such as Lesson 1, Modal Verbs, Lesson 2, Modal Nouns, and Lesson 3, Modal Adverbs. Moving on, the most essential learning competency or MELC covered in this module is on how to use modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs appropriately. Specifically, class, you are expected to identify modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs used in sentences, construct sentences using appropriate modal verbs, nouns, and adverbs, address different societal problems by writing ideas using different modals, and express appreciation of Afro-Asian cultures reflected in the story using modals. So these are the objectives of today's lesson. Now class, we are going to answer a pretest. This is to check what you already know. So under the activity called What I Know, which is on page 2 of your module, please answer questions 1 to 15. So before you proceed, check your knowledge on the lesson that you are about to learn. Test yourself by answering the questions below. Take note of the items that you cannot answer correctly, so you could look for the right answer as you go through this module. So I'm giving you 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer this 15-item activity. Please use intermediate paper, and if the time is not enough for you, feel free to pause this video and answer according to your pace. Alright class, time is up. Let us check your answers. But as I have mentioned earlier, if you still need time, all you gotta do is to pause this video and proceed or continue answering the first activity. Alright class, here are the answers. 1D, 2C, 3A, 4 and 5D, 6B, 7C, 8D, 9, 10A, 11B, 12D, 13C, 14 and 15B. So please count the total number of scores of correct answer rather, and write your score on the paper. And since this is a pre-test, class, just to let you know, the scores in this activity are recorded but actually not graded. Class, next up, we have an activity called What's In, which is found on page 3 of your module. There are 5 items in this activity. Now, I want you to note that you're only going to answer this activity if you have already taken up module number 2, which is called Writing Bibliography. Okay, let me explain what you will do in this activity. Read each of the following situations. Write A if it is acceptable and NA if it is not acceptable in writing a bibliography. So remember, you're only going to put only your answers, so A or NA. And kindly use the same intermediate paper you have used earlier. So there are 5 items here. I'm going to give you 1 minute to finish this, and then we will check. All right. Here are the answers in this activity. 1A, 2NA, 3, 4, and 5A. Please count the number of correct answers and put your score opposite the label What's In.
And number 5, in writing a bibliography, it is a necessity to use appropriate punctuations. So if you notice, there are underlined words used in each of the sentences. So we have number 1, can, 2, may, 3, requisitely, 4, will, and 5, necessity.
Moving on, class, take note of the underlined words used in each of the sentences. So we have here 5 sentences. If you notice, these are the same sentences that are in What's In that activity. So let me read number 1. A learner can get information from various websites and acknowledge the author by writing the sources used. Now, please read number 2. Okay, thank you. Let me read number 3. A research paper requisitely contains a bibliography written on a separate page and placed at the end part of the paper. Now, do read number 4. Also, read the last sentence. Okay, thank you very much. Class, to sum it up, these are the underlined words: can, may, requisitely, will, and necessity. These words are called modals or modal expressions. To give an overview of the definitions of modal verbs, modal nouns, and modal adverbs, I have placed them side by side. Modal verbs are auxiliary or helping verbs which modify or change the meaning of the main verbs. Uses: giving advice or suggestions, making requests, giving predictions, and prohibitions. Now, I want you to read modal nouns. Thank you. Now, the last one, modal adverbs describe or give information about adverbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. Now, let us first discuss modal verbs. Lesson 1, Modal Verbs. To the student, examine the two sentences and analyze if they have the same or different meanings. Number 1. His 75-year-old mother is too old to ride a horse. 2. His 75-year-old mother might be too old to ride a horse. Sentence 1, his 75-year-old mother is too old to ride a horse, states a fact that the mother is too old to ride a horse. While sentence 2, his 75-year-old mother might be too old to ride a horse, expresses the possibility that his mother could no longer do horseback riding due to her age. The presence of the word might in sentence 2 makes the meaning different. The word might is an example of a modal expression that functions as a verb. Aside from might, there are other commonly used modal expressions that function as a verb, like may, can, could, shall, should, will, and would. Again, class, remember, modal verbs are auxiliary or helping verbs which modify or change the meaning of the main verbs. Uses: giving advice, making requests, giving prohibitions, giving predictions, and giving suggestions. This table can also be found on page 5 of your module, and we will see here the modals and their use or uses and a few sample sentences. The modals will, shall, must, won't or will not, shan't or shall not, can't or cannot mean really certain. So in our sample sentence, Jana's debut party will be planned secretly. So it means that Jana's party will certainly be planned secretly. We are sure or we are certain that it is planned secretly or will be planned secretly. Next modals, should and ought to. These two modals mean very likely. In our sample sentence, the traffic is not heavy. We should be there before the time. So the sentence means that we are very likely to be there before the time because the traffic is not heavy. So with the use of the modal should, we can imply or we can say that we are very likely to do something. Next, the modals may, might, and could show possibility. In our sample sentence, it may rain today. So the modal used is may. So we can say that there is a possibility of rain today. Next, modals must, have to, need to. These three mean strong obligation. Now our sample sentence, please read. Thank you. Now the modal use in our sample sentence is must. It means that the plan that we have a strong obligation to do the plan or to accomplish the plan without her knowing it. Next, we have should and ought to, which means or which shows weak obligation. Now class, if you notice, the second set of modals I have mentioned earlier are the same or is the same, should and ought to, which means very likely. Now this time, it can also mean weak obligation. Okay, do not be confused. Now in our sample sentence, I should see a dentist. I have a bad breath even though I brush my teeth regularly. So in this sentence, the modal used is should. But the meaning of the sentence is not really strong obligation. It's something that is weak, meaning the person speaking is not really sure, not certain, or the person is really not obligated to see the dentist or to see a dentist. Next, modal needn't or need not, don't need to, do not need to, don't have to, or do not have to, which mean no obligation. In our sample sentence, I need my teeth now. I will just do it later. So if you notice, the first sentence uses need not as the modal, and it means that the person thinks that she or he has no obligation to brush his or her teeth now. Now class, on page 6, you will see another table which has the same headings such as modal, use, and sample sentence. First, the modals can, may, could, and might. These modals are used to show permission. Our sample sentence, may I borrow your pen? The modal used is may, and it shows permission. Next, can't or cannot, may not, and must not. These modals are used to show no permission. In our sample sentence, you cannot go out without a quarantine pass. The modal used is cannot. And of course, it shows no permission. The modals will and shall are used to show offer, or are used rather to offer. In our sample sentence, I will bring your things here. The modal will shows an offer to bring your things here. Next, the modals will, would, and could uses or are used rather to show request. In our sample sentence, will you open the windows? The modal will shows a request. Another modal, will, it can be used as to show promise. So in our sample sentence, I will come back after sunset. The word will, or the modal will, is used to promise to come back after sunset. Next, we have will to show decision. Sample sentence, I will eat now. Another set of modals, shall, should, shouldn't, or should not. These modals can be used to show or to give advice or suggestion. In our sample sentence, you should wear appropriate attire for your job interview. The word should in here is the modal used, and it gives an advice or a suggestion for the person to use a certain appropriate attire rather for the job interview. Next, can, could, which can be used or which are used to show ability. Sample sentence, the students can sing harmoniously. So the modal used is can. Next, can and may shows or can be used to show general truth. Sample sentence, we can avoid the COVID-19 by following health protocols. Class, if you think this lesson is too fast for you, you can always pause this video and go back to the part that you missed or you did not understand. Furthermore, you can always ask your teacher about the things that you might be confused about. Okay, so in this part, we are going to answer assessment number 1, pick it right. This is also found on page 7 of your module. So please use the same intermediate paper from earlier. Please put lesson 1, assessment 1, and write 1 to 5. You're only going to write the letters of your answer. So determine the function of the underlined modal verb as used in the sentence. Write the letter of your answer on a separate sheet of paper. So that separate sheet of paper we're talking about here is the same intermediate paper from earlier. So I'm giving you a minute to answer this. So your timer starts now. Class, after answering assessment 1, please turn your module to page 8. We have assessment number 2. Please answer this one as well. Please put lesson 1, assessment 2, and put 1 to 5. Remember that you're only going to write the letter of your answer. Please use the same intermediate paper from earlier. Now we will no longer check this assessment. Same goes with assessment 1. We are no longer going to check them. I will be the one to check them when I receive your answer sheets. So I'll give you a minute to answer this.
So after discussing modal verbs, we have modal nouns. And if you have any questions about the discussion, please feel free to ask your facilitator or your teacher. So modal nouns, lesson 2, activity in the right order. To the student, notice the underlined words used in each of the sentences. 1. The son could not leave his mother alone. He felt a great responsibility to take back his mother home. 2. The possibility of the farmer to leave his mother on the top of the mountain should be done, or else both of them will die. 3. The governor realized his mistake So with the ability he has as a governor, he will abolish the law. 4. Long, long ago, there lived a poor farmer and his aged mother in a village where a cruel governor would test the capacity of his people in following his demands. And number 5, the governor once again expressed his ability to use his power by demanding that his people must bring him a rope of ashes. Using the clever idea of his mother, the father made, or the farmer rather, made a rope of ashes. Again, notice the underlined words in each of the sentences.
Students, we are already finished or we are already done discussing lesson number 1. Let us proceed to lesson 2, modal nouns. Notice the underlined words used in each of the sentences. Now I want you to read number 1. Thank you. Let me read number 2. The possibility of the farmer to leave his old mother on the top of a mountain should be done, or else both of them will die. Now please read number 3. Thank you. Number 4. Long, long ago, there lived a poor farmer and his aged mother in a village where a cruel governor would test the capacity of his people in following his demands. Now it's your turn. Read number 5. The underlined words responsibility, ability, possibility, and capacity are called modal nouns. To further understand modal nouns, read and study the sentences below. A. If Carl campaigns hard, his win is a certainty. B. Carl's friends expressed their willingness to help Carl in his campaign. C. There is likelihood that the students will vote for Carl. If you notice, in the 3 sentences given, the words certainty, willingness, and likelihood are underlined. These are examples of modal nouns in addition to the examples earlier such as responsibility, possibility, ability, and capacity. Letter A. Certainty is the modal nouns used, which means the quality or a quality or state of being certain or sure. So we can say that if Carl campaigns hard, his win is sure, or his win is certain. B. Willingness is a quality or state of being ready to do something. In sentence B, we can say that the friends of Carl are ready to help Carl in his campaign. Letter C. Likelihood is a quality or state of something having the chance to happen. In sentence C, it means that there is a chance that the students will vote for Carl. Moving on, we have here the same set of sentences. Certainty in sentence A expresses that Carl's win is for sure. The word willingness in sentence B expresses that Carl's friends are ready to help him. In addition, likelihood in sentence C expresses that there is a chance that the students will vote for Carl. The words on your screen, such as possibility, obligation, necessity, ability, permission, request, promise, chance, requirement, responsibility, and capacity are used as nouns that express modality. These nouns that express modality are called modal nouns. And just like modal verbs, modal nouns also express the quality or state in some manner other than as a simple fact. Let us read the table below that shows more examples of modal nouns, their meanings, and sample sentences. The modal noun possibility means the condition or fact of being possible. In our sample sentence, the sample sentence is there is a possibility of rain tomorrow. Now, kindly read modal noun obligation. Next, modal noun necessity, the quality or state of being in need. Our sample sentence, nowadays, mobile phones are considered a necessity. Okay, kindly read ability. Thank you. Next up, we have permission, which means the right or ability to do something given by someone who has the power to allow or disallow. Sample sentence, my brother is given permission to play. Now kindly read request. Next modal noun is promise, a declaration to do or refrain from doing something. Sample sentence, it is important that when we make a promise, we keep it. Now, kindly read chance. Next modal noun, requirement. That means a condition that something is needed or must be done. Sample sentence: during the pandemic, quarantine pass is a requirement if one will go to the grocery store. Kindly read responsibility. Last on this table, capacity, the quality or state of being able to do something. Sample sentence: I believe my teacher has the capacity to teach us online. Students, to sum up, modal nouns are mostly names of qualities or states. Modal verbs, similar to modal verbs in a way that they also express modal meaning. However, they are different from modal verbs in the way they are used in a sentence. Modal verbs are used to add information to the main verb, while modal nouns name a quality, state, or condition that state modality. In the sentence, Sam felt the necessity to go home early. The modal noun used is necessity. In the other sentence, Sam should go home early. The modal here is should, which is an example of modal verb. Class, please prepare your paper one more time because we will answer lesson 2, assessment 1. Kindly write that on your paper. Please use the same intermediate paper from earlier, but you may also use extra sheets if needed. This activity is also found in your module. It's on page 15, so there are 10 items. What you will do here is you will identify the modal nouns used in each sentence. So you will only write the modal noun found in each sentence. So you will write a word or two. So I'll give you a minute and 30 seconds to answer this. And if you still need more time, just pause this video and take your time. We have reached the last part of the discussion, which is Lesson 3, Modal Adverbs. Take note of the underlined words used in each of the sentences. Please read the first sentence. Thank you. My friend has the ability to lift objects twice her weight. She certainly would win in a weightlifting contest. Kindly read the third sentence. Great. And the last sentence, Ara decidedly write the list of the school's requirement to apply for a scholarship. The underlined words from the sentences on the previous page, possibility, certainly, surely, and decidedly, are used as modal adverbs. In the previous lessons, you learned about modal verbs and modal nouns. This time, you will learn about modal adverbs. Read and study the sentences below. A. If Carl campaigns hard, he shall surely win. B. Carl's friends are willingly happy to help him in his campaign. C. Students will likely vote for Carl. If you notice, the underlined words surely, willingly, and likely end in ly, which is one of the characteristics of adverbs. Now, these adverbs show modality. That's why they are called modal adverbs. Now, these modal adverbs give more meaning or modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. In sentence A, the modal adverb surely modifies the verb win. In sentence B, the modal adverb willingly modifies the adjective happy. And for letter C, the modal adverb likely modifies or give more information to the verb vote. Right here we have a table that shows the modal adverb, the meaning, and the sample sentence. And a sample sentence rather. First, possibly, which is used to state that something is possible to happen. Sample sentence, my mother is possibly coming home today. The word possibly modifying the verb coming. Kindly read certainly. Number 3, obligately, in an obligate or necessary manner. My father is obligately proud to work hard for our family. Now, do read number 4. Thank you. And the last modal adverb in this table, ably, in a skillful or competent manner. Tonton dances ably during the party. And we have more example on the next table. We have more examples. Modal adverb requisitely, used to state something that is essential or important for a particular purpose. Sample sentence: I have to requisitely answer my homework. Requisitely modifying the verb answer. Now, please read promisingly. Third, decidedly, in a manner that is free from doubt. My sister is decidedly supportive of my hobby. Responsibly, in a responsible manner, the police responsibly helped the old man cross the road. Now it's your turn to read the last modal adverb. Now students, since you have seen modal adverbs, the question here is, are they similar to modal verbs and modal nouns? If yes, how are they similar? And if not, how are they different? In the given sample sentences, the underlined words are modal adverbs, and the italicized words are the words they describe. Most of the modal adverbs describe how something is done and how someone feels about something. They are similar to modal verbs and modal nouns because they express modality. However, they differ in form and the way they are used in sentences. Modal verbs are used to add information to the main verb. On the other hand, modal nouns name a quality, state, or condition that state modality rather, while modal adverbs describe or give more meaning or information to add to verbs and adjectives. So, lastly, what have you observed with the form of modal adverbs? Noticeably, most modal adverbs have equivalent modal noun forms. Some of the examples: possibly and possibility, necessarily and necessity, and certainly and certainty, etc. Okay, that's it for the discussion of lessons 1, 2, and 3. If you still have questions about the lessons, you may pause this video and go back to the parts that you were confused about, or you may contact your facilitator to clarify the part or the topics for you. Now this would be the activity that you have to do for lesson 3. So on your paper, okay, please put lesson 3, what I can do, and this will require you to write 5 sentences. So let me read what you will do here. In this part of the module, you will apply what you learned from the lesson by doing the activity below. Help your community recover from flood by writing the things that should be done and how these should be done by you and other people in your community. Remember, class, you will not only write the things that should be done, but how these things should be done. That way, you can incorporate or integrate rather and use the modal adverbs in writing your sentences. Because if you don't put the how, okay, you will have a hard time inserting or putting your adverb, the modal adverb to be exact. So you're going to write your answer on the same paper that you have used earlier. So please put what I can do 1 to 5, lesson 3. And you may also add extra sheets if needed. So for this one, I'll give you 3 minutes. So you may pause this video if you still need more time. Otherwise, your timer starts now. Class, another activity that you should answer is assessment 1 to 15. This is found on page 28 of your module. Please use the same intermediate paper from earlier. And Your module actually has their 14 items, so automatically the number 15 is a bonus. So with this, I'm giving you 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. And if you still need more time, all you gotta do is to pause this video. For your additional activities found on page 29, you will write it in a separate sheet of intermediate paper. What you will do is you will write a short paragraph. So if you see on that page, there is the part that says hi, I am Luis, etc., etc. So here, you're going to write a short paragraph about the activities you enjoy doing at home with your family. So in your module, there's already an example of the things or the activities that Luis does at home with his own family. So you will do the same, but do not forget to write or use modal verbs, modal nouns, and modal adverbs in your sentences. And we also have the rubric found in your module. So this would be the last part of this presentation. And if you have questions about additional activities, you may contact your facilitator. Class, we have reached the end part of our lesson today. I hope that you learned a lot from this video. And if you have any questions, clarifications, kindly contact your teacher. Similarly, you may also comment in the comment section, and I'll try my best to accommodate you. Okay, so good luck, learners, and have fun learning. So have a good day. This is your teacher again, Ma'am Cory Mendoza. Goodbye.